Well, we don't want that to start up again. Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Another week here at Business Card Radio with Margot Levette. Hope your week has been absolutely wonderful. I know mine has. I told you I bring on an author today, and I'm telling you, here we are with Ketrice Keys. This
Yes, ma'am.
lady is amazing, simply amazing. So, all I'm going to say is that she single handedly led 21 women. And these were women who probably had never been an author before, but she single handedly led 21 women to go ahead and be able to become authors. And will you tell us, Forged by Fire, Built God Tough? Ketrice, will you tell us about how this happened? How did you get these folks to how many categories you all took on Amazon?
10 categories, Margot.
Wow, wow, wow. That is
So
that is
yes, it was amazing.
amazing.
And yes, it was amazing. Before I get started, Margot, let me just thank you so much for this opportunity to speak to you and your audience about Forged by Fire, Built God Tough. And yes, we did take 10 categories and we launched on June 1st at 10 a.m. and at 10:05, we were bestsellers in 3 categories already. So God did exceedingly abundantly all that we could have asked or expected, and we are all grateful for that. Yes, it was 21 women that decided to step out on faith, Margot, and just obey God's voice and be transparent and authentic about the forging that they were rendered in the fire of God. And sometimes in life, we go through things and we feel like we're in this thing all by ourselves. We
Yeah.
feel like there's nobody that can identify with what it is that we're going through. We feel like sometimes, and sometimes it's just not a feeling. Sometimes we are ostracized by society. Sometimes we get ostracized by our own family and friends because of the fiery trials and tribulations that we go through, because they can't identify, they can't understand. And so that, especially for women, that makes us become mute, that makes us not want to share, our story, because we're afraid of how people may look at us and what they may say about us. But God gave me this vision to do Forged by Fire, Built God Tough, and I put out the call for authors, and I just followed God's voice on every single thing that I did. And I said, God, you have to send the women that you want in this book. I didn't go soliciting for women, and actually I got a little disheartened because at first they were not coming like I had expected for them to. And I
Yes.
had a good close friend of mine who's an author in the book as well, Dr. Shadaria Allison, and we were talking one day, and I said, well, you know what? If I only get 5 women in this book, I'm going to be grateful for the 5. If I can reach the 5, I'll be grateful for that. And she was like, oh, no, Miss Ketrice, you had a certain number that you asked for, and this is what God is going to do. And so strategically throughout the project, there were women like her and Dawn Leak that were pouring into me saying, don't give up, continue the race. And sure enough, God sent those 21 women, and it was an absolutely amazing journey. Um, to watch them transform, and not only them, to watch myself transform through the process of forming um, sisterhood with the women. And so it's just amazing, and I'm still in awe about everything that transpired with the project, and with everything that's going to transpire with the project, because it's not just a one hit wonder, as they say. It's not just we put it out there, and no, this is going to be a movement. This is something that God has placed in my care, and something that I'm going to handle with the care, and just listen to his voice and be obedient to the call, and let other women know you're not in this alone. Doesn't matter if you're going through depression, doesn't matter if you've been suicidal, doesn't matter if you've coped with infidelity or infertility. It doesn't matter what it is that you've gone through. There's someone else in this world that is going through, or has going, or will go through what you are going through. So there is somebody that you can identify with.
Oh,
And so
wow.
that's the gist of it. And when we hear the word forged, we think about something that's being beaten. And of course, when
Mhm.
you're in a trial, you feel like you're being beaten, and you really are, because what God is doing is He's strategically emptying you of all of the stuff that holds us back: bitterness,
Yes.
anger, malice, all of those things. And then He rebuilds us, Margot, and He pours love into us, and He pours
Yes.
temperance and meekness and long suffering. And then once we've been built, God tough, well, God is the ultimate. And once He has built you, and then He presents you to Himself, and then He can see His reflection in you, then
Yes.
then answer me this: what is there in the world that can come against that building?
I
Nothing.
can't think of a thing that can come against that. What would dare stand against that?
Right.
So
Right.
the ladies that are featured in the book, the 21 authors, including yourself, they're telling stories that some may raise some eyebrows,
Yes, ma'am.
but they are definitely set to make a difference in the lives of men and women, I assume,
Yes, ma'am.
correct? Yeah, because trouble
Correct.
has no, it doesn't care about gender.
It
Trouble is
doesn't care.
trouble.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So yes, it's and like I've spoken about before, there are stories. There's even a story from a pastor's perspective of being, and the title of her chapter is "Serving Under Bait."
Oh,
And
wow.
it's just that she's saying, I was put out too fast. I didn't bake to my full potential before I entered into becoming a leader. And she's just compelling people to make sure that you are baked, that you are ready to take on all of those responsibilities of being a pastor, of being a leader of people. And then we have stories of infertility, of a woman battling with uterine and ovarian cancer at the early age of 30 years old, and not being able to have children of her own, and going through depression, and becoming angry with God, and just being transparent about that, because a lot of times people don't want to talk about, well, yeah, I got mad with God.
Hmm.
They don't want to, but that's a real thing that happens to people. And she shares that with us, and then she shows us in her story how he didn't turn his back on her, but when she was ready, he was
Yes.
still there waiting on her to redeem her. And the title of her chapter is "The Fire Made Me Fertile." I mean, things like that. And then we have chapters that are entitled "A Christ-like Husband," with
Hmm.
this woman that's speaking about going through infidelity, and how her husband, even in her infidelity, how he covered her with his love and shielded her from the outside world, and showing us how that's how Christ does us when we do
Yes.
things that we're not supposed to do. He doesn't shun us, He shields us. We ask for forgiveness, and He covers us again. And so these are the type of stories that are in this book, and the ladies are so transparent. It's just like the stories leap up off the page and reach you where you are. So I give shouts out to all of those women who, and yes, some of them were first time authors. Some of them had never written before in their lives. And of course, they were scared, and there was fear. And I strategically asked God, how do you want me to handle them and coach them through this? And He gave me the words to say to each and every one of them, to make them feel comfortable, to make them know and understand that you're going to help somebody. Doesn't matter about the naysayers. Doesn't matter, well, I can't believe you've done that. You're going to help somebody come out of the darkness that they're in. And so that's what you focus on when you write stories like this. So, yeah.
That's what I was going to ask you. How did you find the grit? Well, I know it was God, but will you tell people how it was that you finally said, okay, we're going to do this project? Because when you're leading a group, 21 women and
Hmm.
novices, and you know how, I'm not trying to stereotype, but you know how we
Right.
all have different opinions. We all are looking for different outcomes. And you held
Exactly.
it together to lead these women. How did you find the strength to know that I'm out here on a limb, I'm walking on water. We have to go all the way now.
That's right. And it's funny you say walking on water, because that's exactly what it was. And it's just an analogy that I always use is when Peter saw Jesus on the water, he said to him, Jesus, if that's you, bid me come to you. And Jesus told him, it is me, come.
Yeah.
And Peter stepped out of the boat on the water. And so that is exactly what happened with this project. I strategically, and people, they ask me, where, just like you, where'd you get that strength? It was God. I prayed and prayed and considered every aspect of, how people view these women, and knowing that it is a tedious thing releasing certain things to people, and asking God, does she need to say this? These are things
Yes.
that I asked God. God, does she need to release this right now? And if he told me no, then I would tell the lady, don't release that part. It's not time. If he said, yes, I have freed her to release this, so you just coax her into it, that's what I did. When I say I asked him for strategic direction, that's what I did on a daily basis, because I understand how society looks at you when you say certain things. And I understand the warfare that comes behind you releasing something that's going to snatch somebody's soul out of the grip of the enemy. So I strategically had to stay in God's face, petitioning him for directive. Just even asking him things such as, how do I take the burden off of the authors when we get ready to launch? Because
Yeah.
we all want to push and we all want to be bestsellers. But God, what is it that I can do to help them not be so stressed out that day? And he told me, he gave me a directive. He said, get you some influencers. And I
Uh-huh.
ended up joining about 21 or 22 influencers that were pushing graphics, that were telling their people it's time to order the book and things of that nature. So when I say, when God gives you something, when I say strategically listen to his voice and stay right there and don't move from what he's telling you, it's going to work out. That's what I've done, Margot. That's where I got the strength. It was the strength of God. It was the strength of God. Absolutely.
Forged by
Yes.
Fire, Built God Tough. Who do you say this book is for? If and I see we're down to the last few minutes, who
Yes, ma'am.
should go to Amazon and make that purchase today?
I would say that this book is not just for women. I would say that this book is gender fluid. I would say that everyone needs to get a copy of their book, of this book, in their hand, because even if it's a male that purchases the book, he may come in contact with a woman that needs this book. It could be his sister. It could be his daughter. So I'm not going to say this book is just for women. And also, even if a male reads this book, he gets a perspective of what a woman's thinking is, of what a woman goes through. So that will help him, even if he's in a volatile relationship and he may be the one that's doing the domestic violence or doing the domestic abuse or whatever the case may be. This is a book that will literally help him, redirect some of his fears and some of his anger and things of that nature. Because when I tell you it's God breathed, it's God breathed. So if you're a woman that's battling with depression, get the book. If you are a female that's battling with infertility, get the book. If you are a human being on the face of the earth that's going through a trouble, trial, or tribulation, get the book. And if you're not in a place of going through a trouble, trial, tribulation, get the book. Because if you live long enough, you will be going through a trouble, trial, or tribulation. And you need to have this book in your hand to know that there is hope, that God does not leave you in the fire. He's right there with you. And if he puts you in there, he's sure to bring you out. And
Yes.
this book gives you a hope to know that if he done it for these 21 women, surely he can do
21.
the same for me. He can do
Yes.
the same for me. So I'd say, if you're a human being and you're living and breathing on the face of the earth, get the book.
Get the book. Get the
Get
book.
the book.
I want to add one other thing on it. Also, as I listen to you and I see the success of this book, you have helped 21 women step from the shadows to tell their truth. And my takeaway from all of this is, if you have a project, if there's something that just keeps coming to you and you have to do it, you may not even know totally how to do it. Seek out the counsel of those
Yes.
who do know how to do it, and do it,
Right.
because it wasn't just for you. I think that you are a, where did I have that? I think you're a four-time
Yes, ma'am.
author. Yeah.
4-time
So
best-selling author. Yes.
being a best-selling author was not new to you. But had
Right.
you just said, well, I don't want to do this, I don't know how to do it, I know how to go ahead and add to anthologies, but I don't know
Right.
how to lead folks this way, had you
Right.
just brushed that on off and poo-poo with that, these
Mm-hmm.
women would not know what they
Right.
know. You know what? We have one more minute. Let's tell everybody that next week you
Yes.
are coming back. And
Yes,
you are
ma'am.
coming back with other people, authors
Yes.
from Forged by Fire, Built God Tough. So who's coming along with you next week? Ketrice.
Right now, Margot, I have Miss Shawanika Pittman that's coming along with me on August 15th to speak to you again about Forged by Fire, Built God Tough. And she is my sister, my blood sister. And this has been an amazing journey for the two of us to be able to share because prior to this project, Margot, we were not even speaking. So this has been
Hang
an
on. Hang
amazing,
on.
an
I
amazing
don't
thing.
I don't want you to spill the beans on that
Yes,
one because that story, they're going to have to come back and be
yes,
with us
ma'am.
this same time,
Yes,
4
ma'am.
o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern Time. They're going to have to join us back because when you all hear this story,
Yes,
happened
ma'am.
because she said she was going to write a book. And you know how
Exactly.
many people are over on social media? You know how the algorithm just cuts you right off and nobody sees you, nobody can hear
Right.
you. Her sister saw what she was doing. I'm just going to leave it at that.
That's right.
Compelling story. And
That's right.
I'm just going to leave it at that. Okay.
Absolutely
They're going to have
amazing.
to come back for that one.
Gotta come
Goodness.
back to hear it. It's a
Woo.
good one. It's a good one.
It is one that will have you yeah, it is an
Yeah.
amazing, amazing story. So we have it on the lower third there. Amazon is where you can get Forged by Fire, Built God Tough.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
love when you said, keep living. Everybody needs to get this book because keep living, trouble's going to come your way. You're going to
That's
have
right.
to need to see that somebody else made it through.
Made it through. That's exactly right.
Wow.
Yes. It's amazing.
Any other parting words? I have one more minute.
Well, if and like I always say, my parting words are this, Margot. When God tells you to do something, obey his voice. It does not matter how crazy it sounds, because we do remember how crazy it sounded when God told Noah to build the ark and there was never any rain, and how everybody talked about, what are you doing? You're looking crazy. Why are you doing this? He followed God's directions. Obedience to God's voice leads to overflow in your life. So just always obey what he's telling you. Doesn't matter if nobody understands it. Doesn't
Yes.
matter if nobody gets it. He didn't give it to them. He gave it to you. So just obey his voice.
I love it. I love it. We will be back next week with Ketrice, and she Forged by Fire, Built
Build
God
God
Tough.
tough.
Hopefully,
Yes,
someone
ma'am.
will have received their copy of the book by that time. She's coming back with other authors next week here on
Yes,
Business
ma'am.
Card Radio with Margot Levette. Thanks, everybody. Thank you so
Thank
much for
you.
coming by, dear lady. So
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
See you
Margot.
next week. Bye
Yes,
bye.
ma'am. Bye bye.